Hello, I'm going to give you an example of what I meant when I said we were going to be tracing animals in class after the presentation was done. I have 4 slides here. There will be more for the actual presentation. This is just to give an example. The first animal I'm going to trace is a chameleon. So I'm going to click on the pen tool, and I'm doing this on my computer, but this will actually be done on a smartboard when it's done in class. And I'm going to talk to the students about where they should start tracing. For the chameleon, I think it'd be really fun to start on the tail since it's so curly. So I'm just going to start down here and I'm going to trace around. And I made sure I chose a bold contrasting color that will show up even in the back of the classroom. It's a little light in some of the areas, but for the most part this yellow really stands out. So then I'm going to have the students go around and we'll talk about, how they can trace the eye. I'm just going to do like a little, whatever that is, and go around, and then they'll do the mouth and the arms, and they're done. And then we will move the image to the side so they can see what it looks like. It's not the prettiest thing, but it really shows them how they can go from this incredibly detailed image to a really interesting traced continuous line that will give them the same kind of idea of what the animal is. So then we're going to trace the shark, and this one's a little bit harder to decide where it's going to start. I'm actually going to start up here at the mouth, and I'm going to go around it. This yellow is not showing up as well on this one, so I probably should have chosen a darker color, but that's okay. It's all a learning experience. So this one's going to be super simple. I'll probably start out with this just because, it'll really give the students an idea. And I mean, that's not a very good trace. Look at that. You can't tell what that is. So that's a really good example of, maybe it looks like it'll be really simple to trace, but if you can't tell what it is when you pull it away, that doesn't really do anything for you. So it might encourage the students to try something a little bit more complicated when they're choosing. The next one I'm going to do is the rhino, and I thought this one would be really interesting because it has these really funky horns sticking up. It has all of these different details sticking up. So I thought for this we would start with the mouth, and I'm actually going to change the color. I'm worried that yellow is just not going to show up, so I'm going to use this nice bright red. And I don't actually know that it's important to trace the back of the rhino like I just did. I don't know that that's a detail that's really necessary for it. You could probably get the same idea across without that being there. So let's see what this looks like when it's done. Oh, look at that. It looks just like a rhino. So, again, another example. And now we're going to move on to our last image. I am going to stick with the red since this photo is mostly greens and blues. It's going to be important to talk to the students about not tracing the hair on this one, but focusing on the shape of the actual skull of the fox. There are all these little hairs that are sticking out, but they aren't really the important details of the fox. So I'm going to start down here because I really want that head to be in this tracing. And I'm going to go around. For this activity, I'm going to have a lot of different students come up. I'll probably have enough so that each student has time to try tracing one, or they can double up, they can pair up and do it together. But I really want the students to have time to explore the idea of tracing without having to feel like they need to take ownership for it. There's nothing quite scary about using the smartboard. It's not like they're creating something with paper that's not something that they have made and they've put time into. This is just a fun, silly activity that they can work on. So let's see what this looks like when it's done. It looks like some sort of, triangle-eared animal. So they can think about how they would change it. Maybe they would start at the nose or they'd start at the eyes so they could get that detail in there. So thank you so much for watching my little explanation.